I don't know who the hell we think we are when we do something like that.
What's up, fight fans? We are back live on the Cageside Press social media platform. This is the Combat Connection, and I'm your host, Brett Cagle. We have a lot to break down on this episode, including the first UFC fight card of the new year this Saturday. Eddie, you'll be covering this event in person from Las Vegas. I'm sure you're ready to get and see some fights here in 2025.
Ready to roll, man. Cageside Press kicking this thing off like big time, as we do every single year. Love to get a good quick start. So gonna go in there for a UFC Apex card between two badass strawweights with a lot on the line.
Yeah, and I think there's a decent amount of depth on this card as well. Maybe some unranked guys people should look out for. We'll break that down later in our show, but first, let's get to some of the rumors that were circulating over the last 2 weeks when we were absent here. Logan Paul versus Conor McGregor potentially happening in India. Record payouts are being reported to both of these guys if this can be made. Eddie, what do you make of this rumor, and do you think it's actually feasible and could happen?
I think I'm in the same place as everybody else. Is why are we doing this, right? Why is Conor like, dude? You've been talking about fighting MMA for who knows how long, begging for a date. Damn near, being kind of a dick about it, right? And it's like, so you're gonna go box? This just reeks of I need cash. That's what it reeks of.
Yeah, I don't think Dana. Here's the thing: if he goes and fights Logan Paul, his MMA career, in my opinion, is officially over. No questions asked. He's never going to fight again in the UFC if he goes and fights Logan Paul. We may see him in his own BKFC, do something like that. He might fight the winner of Eddie Alvarez, Jeremy Stevens at Knucklemania, something like that. But I don't think Dana lets him come back if he goes and fights Logan Paul. It's kind of like Nate Diaz. We haven't seen Nate Diaz get brought back since he fought Jake. If Conor goes and fights Logan and just basically says the competitive part of my career is over, I don't think Dana lets him back in to the UFC. Do you think that this would signify his retirement necessarily from the UFC?
I don't think so. But here's the thing. I agree with you. I don't think he comes back to MMA. But it won't because Dana says no. Because Dana knows a cash cow. He loves it when he sees one. And he doesn't really have another one ready to go yet. You can make a case for Pereira, make a case for Tapuria, and is on his way to that. But you don't have an established one really, right?
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, for as much stuff he puts himself through, and by the way, he does it to himself. No one does anything to him. He does everything to himself. For as much garbage as he puts himself through and all that crap that he's been accused of, and some of the stuff that he's actually done, no one's done anything to him. He's done it to himself. That being said, I think if he doesn't come back, if this $250 million purse is a real number, that boy never coming back. Ever. There's no reason. Why would you come back?
That's what I'm saying. He's not going to want to come back, and he's not going to be able to get himself in that shape competitively to compete at a championship level. And also, where would his brand even be if he lost to Logan Paul? Say he goes in there and loses some decision or something. Logan's just too big, and he can't knock him out like he thinks he's going to. That significantly diminishes his brand, and I don't think that opens up an opportunity for him to come back to the UFC. So this is really big news in the career of Conor McGregor. If this does happen, I think this might be the last time we see Conor McGregor compete again, especially with how successful his whiskey line is and the new restaurant he has there in Ireland, which I'm sure he's going to put all over the place.
Shout out Devin Tease. What's up, fellas? Minus 400. Conor suffers an overdose and he gets $250 million. I hope not. That would suck. But here's the thing about Conor doing, to get in this boxing fight. You're absolutely right. If he actually goes and boxes Logan Paul, we saw what Logan did against Floyd Mayweather. Anyone that has watched, not just boxing, if you ever watch combat sports, you know a man when he's out on his feet. Like, that was obvious. Floyd literally physically had to hold him up and like pop him a couple times to wake him up to make the fight palatable. And even then, it was garbage. It was a garbage fight. I expect nothing different in this one. This isn't Logan boxing. Who's the guy that came with that god awful song? He's like buddies with. He's a business partner. What's his name?
KSI.
Thank you, KSI. He's not boxing KSI. He's not boxing some other influencer or scammer, whatever you call it. He's not doing that. He's boxing a legit fighter. Do I think Conor could win? Sure, he could. Do I think he does? I hope we don't find out. I don't want to know. I don't want to see it. Like, I would love for him to just chill out, go fight MMA. but I can't fault the man for looking for the bag.
Yeah, I can't either from a financial perspective, but for someone who covers the sport and is a lifelong fan of martial arts and boxing, I'm over the celebrity boxing stint that we've seen. The Jake Paul, Mike Tyson left such a bad taste in my mouth that moving forward, I'm just not interested in matchups like these. Would I watch if Logan fought Conor? Absolutely. But I don't think it means anything for anyone outside of those two making money, right? So like Logan Paul, what's that mean if he beats McGregor? Like, who's he go fight after that? It doesn't matter. And for McGregor, if he goes in there and loses, it's catastrophic for his career. And if he wins, maybe he competes in his own promotion at BKFC. But there's just not a lot to make of this matchup. And I don't know why somebody out there is interested in paying these guys the amount of money that they are to see it.
I think when you got too much money, you do stupid stuff for the sake of doing stupid stuff. I mean, look at Elon. Look at, he bought friggin' Twitter and destroyed it. You look at any billionaire. You got too much damn money. I honestly feel like money makes you stupid. It makes you stupid if you don't know how to handle it. And, Conor did a lot of good things early on. Established companies, all kind of great. BKFC, awesome. All that kind of stuff. Outside of that, come on. What are we doing? Right? So we'll have to see what happens with that here, but this is interesting, Zeke. He says, hi, by the way. What's up? He goes, what about Clemente Russo and Mattia Faraoni? I know Mattia. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Zeke. He's a kickboxer. He actually kickboxed at Octagon like a year or two ago. So I know that name. The other guy, I'm assuming, is a boxer, maybe a kickboxer. You tell me.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with either of those guys.
Yeah, but I've heard of Faraoni because I watch Octagon a little bit here and there because Patrick McCoy for Cage Press, he goes to cover them all the time, and so he
pass?
No, that's on their own deal. But it's not especially when there's nothing on no UFC and nothing else on TV, and if you want to watch some actually good fights and stuff like that, even though usually the commentary is in German, it's actually pretty cheap pay-per-view. It's like €15, €15. It's not bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I bought the Ryzen pay-per-view this year for $15.99, and that was actually a really good card. Did you catch any of that?
Boy, you're a better man than me, dog. I was passed the hell out. I was getting my updates from Jay.
Yeah.
Jay would tell me what's going on while I just woke up, checked my messages.
Those fights were sick.
Dude, here's the thing. No one, I get it. The UFC is the top dog everywhere. I totally understand it. Okay, awesome. What people can't overlook, Ryzen, it has a great product. They're 10 times better than PFL and Bellator. I'll say it with my whole chest. Way better in terms of fight quality, in terms of production. The show, everything is 10 times better than PFL.
Yeah.
Like Don Davis wishes he was leading Ryzen on this side.
And honestly, Scott was cross promoting with these guys and making something that was really interesting. Having Bellator versus Ryzen multiple times on their New Year's Eve cards. I mean, these guys know how to put a show together. And if you look at the top guys who come over into the UFC, Manel Kape, Yuri Prochazka, Volkan Oezdemir, all these guys come over from Ryzen. They compete well, and they're one of the top feeder promotions. I agree. I think they're better right now standing than where the PFL is. Do they have stars like Dakota Ditcheva or Usman Nurmagomedov? Not necessarily, but the production. If you put the fighters from PFL in Ryzen, you would have a legitimate competitor to the UFC.
Oh, hell yeah. I think absolutely, especially the way that Ryzen's able to do it. Now, who knows if they're testing or not? That's not I don't know how that goes. I know, Japan, back in the day, the prep days were crazy. Like the contract said, we'll test for cocaine, that's it. Anything else, free game, boys. But anyway, but again, if Ryzen can make their product viable for Americans, and I hate to say it, our prime time instead of Japan's all time, I think you would have a legitimate thing. But I think they're happy where they're at and making enough money doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so too. But speaking of the PFL, they don't make a lot of headlines, but they actually did over the last 2 weeks. They announced a really big fight between Paul Hughes and Usman Nurmagomedov that's going to be coming up, and then had an interview with Khabib. And Khabib kind of sounded off in the Dagestan versus Ireland rivalry. Let's take a look. Do you have
no? Last time they got all mad at us because we played a clip, so we ain't gonna do it. But
basically, he said that Dagestan's level of fighters are up here and Ireland's level of fighters are down here. Now, this is a prominent rivalry. If you look at Khabib and Conor, that's obviously the biggest part of it. But I was there in Chicago and covered Richie Smolin versus Timur Khizriev. And I asked Richie Smolin, I said, hey, Richie, you're facing a guy from Dagestan. He's a really good wrestler. How much of your camp was, put in and dedicated to defending the takedown. He goes, I'm not going to be defending the takedown. I'm going to put him on his ass, and we'll see who has the best ground game then. So, like, the tension between these two countries is just palpable. And every time that one of these guys get matched up against one another, it really takes on a life of its own. And, you know, this is going to be for a title. Usman Nurmagomedov is quite possibly the most talented fighter that we have in the sport, especially at his young age of 26 years old.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great fight for the PFL. I really like them putting this matchup together. But again, we've talked about this. It's in the Middle East. When are they coming back to America? You have to have the American audience. You're an American-based promotion. Your biggest fights eventually have to take place in America where you can sell tickets. Ngannou, Middle East. The World Championships where Dakota, staked her claim, Middle East. It really is getting tiring at this point for the American fight fan not being able to see the best people outside the UFC.
Turk Al-Sheikh, dude. He owns PFL at this point. Might as well buy it. Like he dishes out the money.
So. Really. What'd you make of Khabib's comments, though? Like, obviously, the Russian fighters are probably the best in the world right now. But if you look at Ireland, Ian Gary's on the come up. They have some good prospects as well.
They got some good prospects, just not as many. I mean, like, Khabib made a really good point. They're not, they won't. These other promotions, most promotions aren't going to sign a bunch of these Dagestani guys because he goes, they all have a chance to be champion. He's not wrong. All right, hate it if you want to, y'all. Call them crotch snippers all you want to and all kinds of stuff. They are the top crotch snippers in the universe. They will crotch snip your ass to a title. They don't care. Yeah. I mean, that's how it goes. That's why those like these PFL tournaments don't work out that well, because you get a bunch of these same guys in there and they're just hugging each other to the end. And at the end in the final, you get a who can't even pronounce this guy's name against not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name, and they fight. And that's it.
Yeah, look at the winners this year. You had Kizriev, Rabadanov, and Shamil Musayev, really relative unknowns. Musayev became a power puncher this year and really broke out. But a lot of those guys are relatively unknown, like you're saying, but they're tremendous competitors. I think one of the things for Ireland is it's just blatantly obvious. It's smaller than Russia. Russia is just bigger. It has more people to choose from. There's going to be guys in Dagestan. There's going to be guys in Chechnya. There's going to be guys like Volkov and Pavlovich who, are from Moscow and in that area. So it's just a bigger base. Now, there's going to be more Russian fighters than there are Irish fighters. But, Ian Gary's on his way up. He's doing well. I don't think Ireland or Irish MMA is in a bad spot. If you go and see Bellator, they're able to sell out arenas when they go over there. Liam McCourt is a top contender in females MMA. So it's not like they don't have quality fighters as well.
Yeah, no, they do. They have quality fighters and everything, but you're right. The size, the population size, all kinds of stuff. And you got to remember these different places, in the Middle East, sure, right? But between Russia and, these Russians kind of spread out everywhere. You got Chechnya, they go into Chechnya, they go into Afghanistan, Iraq, all these other places. They're everywhere, right? And if you think about the history of that region, constant wars. They're constantly getting bombed. They're constantly getting crazy. Dude, they are hard people. I don't know, and you're probably you're a Bulls fan. You might know the story. Tony Kukoc, right? Tony Kukoc he got bullied in the Olympics by Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen specifically. They called him soft. Now I was a little kid when that happened, right? I was watching, but I was a kid. I was like little, and I remember thinking like, look, man, I got because I had a couple of Russian friends in school when I was a kid, and I'm like, these guys are not, because I thought Kukoc was Russian. He's not. He's Ukrainian. I can't remember what Tony was.
Tony, I can't remember where Kukoc is.
He's in that
Serbian, maybe
something. Serbian. But he's in that region that's constantly under war. I remember thinking like, no. My friends' parents always talk about how they had to escape that region because of war. Like that guy's not. He's not soft. Fast forward to now. You're talking generations of these kids that were raised by hard people, and they have a different culture than we do. You know what I mean? And their culture, they're not giving all their kids all everything that they didn't have growing up because they know that toughness is necessary. Here, we soften our fucking kids up with a goddamn iPad and freaking everything. Just like anything to make me not be a parent to you. Just go away, right?
Did you see the interview with Khabib and Demetrius Johnson this week where Demetrius Johnson was talking? He said, what happened to Abu Bakr? Me and Abu Bakr used to be like this. We played, I think it was World of Warcraft, or we were playing some type of game together, and they were really good. And PUBG, they were playing PUBG. And he goes, Abu Bakr was really good. He'd compete with me. And Khabib goes, yeah, he lost a fight, so we broke his computer. He hasn't been on the fence. And Demetrius Johnson goes, "What? You broke his computer?" And he's like,
That's awesome.
Brother, we broke his computer. And he's like, "Oh, I believe you."
I don't blame him. Real quick, got to catch a few comments here. Pac-Man talking about the Conor thing. There has to be more money in MMA. I can't even fathom anyone paying money to watch this dog shit. You're right, and they're not going to pay for it. The alleged numbers of the Tyson, first of all, they didn't get it wasn't pay-per-view, so who cared, right? I mean, Netflix paid a fixed price for that, right? But the numbers of like the people that like cared was super, super low. Again, it's Logan Paul. They're banking on people tuning in just because it's Conor, but we're kind of past that. People just tuning in just because it's Conor. That shit ain't coming anymore.
Well, they know people are going to view those events, right? So the majority of money that they're making is from advertisement, right?
Yep.
So they don't really care if they get money in pay-per-view from us. That is like that is just an incentive on top. That's the cherry on top, right? They're going to try and sell, like, I don't know if you saw the WWE last night. They had Fortnite in the middle of the ring. That's for a reason. They're trying to make money off that. And when you have Tyson versus Paul, that was really a commercial event, which I'm sure Paul versus McGregor would be as well. So what they're going to do is sell advertisement there, commercials, stuff like that. And they're going to mark it up 10x because they know millions and millions and millions of people are going to be watching this, whether it's illegally streamed or it's on Netflix like the last one. I think pay-per-view right now is kind of a relic of the past. I think that's how guys were getting paid in the 90s and early 2000s, like Bob Arum and Don King. But now there's commercials and on Netflix, there's just so much advertisement money. I think they really don't care.
You know what pisses me off? Paying for a pay-per-view with the UFC and getting fucking ads. Hey, watch this dog shit ass movie. You're not gonna watch in fucking 2 months. Fuck this. Get a fight on. Damn, dude. Why? This is pay-per-view. This isn't cable. This isn't pay-per-view with some fucking ads in the middle. This isn't like the basic Hulu package, dickwad. This is pay-per-view. Stop giving me ads. That shit. Now, man, I get so mad when ads come up. People complain about commentary and all that crap. No, I complain about the ads. Like, why am I getting ads? Anyway, but I think that Dana's got to, at some point, hopefully the WWE gets in there and like messes with his head a little bit. Like, hey, man, we don't even do pay-per-views anymore, and we're doing great. See what's up. Real quickly
though, what do you think about this matchup with Hughes and Nurmagomedov? Hughes looked really good against AJ McKee. When we were watching live with Pat McCory, he kind of made me eat my words. I thought McKee was going to come out victorious, but I didn't know too much about Hughes coming in from Cage Warriors. He was a champion over there. Obviously, had fought guys like Vucinic. And I believe Charrier as well, who are in the UFC and doing well. So he had a good background, but he's looked good here in his wins over Bobby King and AJ McKee. Do you think he's a legitimate contender for Usman Nurmagomedov?
No. It's Usman Nurmagomedov. Does anybody do anything to Usman ever? And he's got hands too. Like, what are we doing? Now, could Paul come out and do something crazy? Sure. But the Nurmagomedov playbook is put some hands on you, take you down, lace your legs, beat you up. I might bore you to death and get my decision, or I might, just beat you up real, just tenderize you on the ground. That's fine. Do I think Paul's gonna win? No. Do I think he has a chance? Sure. Everyone has a chance. But do I think he's gonna do it? No. I hate to say it. I like Paul Hughes. Paul Hughes should be in the UFC, not in Bellator, not in PFL. He has no business being in PFL at all. Paul, like them not signing Paul Hughes out of the Contender Series to me was a huge screw up. I think he would have been awesome, especially not putting him into crazy matchups right away. But you got a guy that could potentially, not take the mana from Conor McGregor, right? But just what we were talking about a second ago about the Irish versus Ireland versus Dagestan. You could certainly bolster that up in the UFC. I mean, think of it this way:
him and Gary on the same card and put it in Ireland.
If they fuck around, they mess around and get to a title fight or even win titles, that you want to do it. Look, y'all crazy about these stadium shows that I think are garbage, but y'all crazy about these stadium shows. Ireland, that's a stadium show. All right. If Paul Hughes is a champ at 55, and Gary's a champ at 70 somehow.
Yeah, or fighting for a belt or something.
No, Dana screwed up with the Mexico one. That was messed up, Dana. You had 3 legitimate Mexican champions, and you screwed that up. If you somehow get Paul Hughes in there and you get 2 Irish champions, boy, you better not screw that up. That is massive. I would think about flying to Ireland for that one. I won't do it, but I would think about it at least. And real quick, we'll talk about actually, Devin. We're gonna talk about your point on the tournament here in a little bit, I'm sure.
Let's get to some comments real quick before we.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna get to one of your topics. You want to get into it?
Yeah. If he's asking about it.
Yeah. So, he's commenting. The PFL will no longer be having $1 million tournament, $2 million tournaments either. There will not be a tournament bonus. Now, from what I've read and from what I understand, these guys have something like a 20-20 contract. So 20 to show up, 20 to win, right? So you show up to fight, you get your 20. You make weight, you get your 20, and you win, you get your other 20, right? The rest of that money comes at the very end. If you win the tournament, you get the rest of that money, right? I don't know if it's, and Devin, correct me if I'm wrong, or actually let us know if you understand it more better than I do, because I kind of skimmed over it. Is it a $500,000 bonus, or is it you get your pay and then whatever's left over up to $500,000, that's what you get as a bonus? Either way, the lure of these $1 million tournaments done, and we kind of knew that was coming anyway. Now I'm just waiting for one championship to start giving away $50,000 every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I think one championship and PFL are both sinking ships. So
hemorrhaging money, dude.
I love covering the PFL, and I hope I continue covering the PFL as long as they exist. But if they don't exist, I mean, that takes a major player out of the game, and there's not a legitimate contender for the UFC. In any business, you have to have some type of competition, right?
Yeah.
You can't just be a sole monopoly. That takes down fighter pay in the UFC when they can't go to Dana and say, hey, the PFL is offering me twice as much. Now Dana raises his offer to maybe not match it, but somewhere under. That gives it's just good for the market. And, I just hope they can keep stuff alive. But the upper brass at the company, I don't think they're the right people to run it.
They're not. And it's just, and we talk about this until our heads fall off every single show. Like, these guys are just screwing up. And I know I'm one of the louder ones talking about Don Davis and stuff like that. It's just, dude, he hasn't shown anything, not one morsel of competence when it comes to MMA.
You want to get into the LinkedIn post?
Yeah, fuck it. I got a post on that. Let's go. Let me just find it real quick, but I got one. Go ahead.
So if you guys didn't see it, Don Davis, he went to LinkedIn and he put a post together and said 5 things that were tough for the PFL this year and what they had to battle through. Some of the adversity that they had to go over. Here you go. You can see it here. 5 bad things that happened to the PFL in 2024. Numerous potential new investors wasted thousands of hours of our time, and time is so precious. Number 2, major advertiser agreed to deal, was in final contract, and then the new management came in and stopped the deal. I'm sorry, it's this very small font. But Number 3, some Bellator star fighters complained on social media about not fighting, making PFL look like
they're better.
Not meet our contracts. Okay, he actually was the wrong one who was grammatically incorrect in that sentence.
Yep.
But number 4, we are growing so fast with our new international leagues that the costs in some regional areas are way too high. Here's the thing with number 4 is the stupidest point of all of them. Number 3 has a legitimate cause for concern because the fighters should be complaining. But let's just talk about number 4. How many fight cards of PFL MENA have you tuned in, or PFL Africa or PFL Europe have you tuned in to see? I've tuned in to see PFL MENA 0 times. I've tuned in to see PFL Europe twice. Once with Dakota Ditcheva, and then they brought back Roger Huerta, and I wanted to see if he was still able to move. And so they were bringing back former UFC guys to build their PFL Europe anyway. But I've never seen MENA. I've never seen PFL Africa. I'm sure those guys are great competitors. But it has no meaning to the grand scheme of the company or the grand scheme of the rankings or title contention or anything that us fight fans really care about. So all of the money that you're pushing towards these things that you're proud of over in other international markets, the hardcore fight fan and the casual fight fan doesn't really care about. So I just think the lack of direction is appalling by the upper brass there at the PFL. Now, if we want to get into point 3, some Bellator star fighters complained on social media about not fighting. How can you be in the prime of your career and only get offered 2 fights? Now, he said previously that every fighter was offered 2 fights. That doesn't mean they fought 2 times. That just means they were offered twice. I mean, so maybe they fought once, maybe they didn't fight at all. You go and look at Daniel James, who competed in the heavyweight tournament. He got a 6-point play with a knockout in the first round in his first matchup, then got sick and or for some other reason had to pull out of his next fight. Never again fought in 2024. He's over 40 years of age, and he might not ever fight again. So, yeah. I mean, this is just inexcusable the way these guys are being treated, in my opinion. And it should be coming from the top down, and Don should be taking a lot more he should be owning this. It's like a head coach in football who loses a game. You never blame the players. You never blame the star quarterback. It's my fault. I called the wrong play. I had the guys not in position to win. It doesn't seem like accountability is being held in this situation.
He reminds me of Spencer Rattler. You know that name?
Yeah, the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, Oklahoma. He was on the Netflix doc.
He a bitch. He's an Arizona boy. I can say that. Fuck him. Anyway, but here's the reason why I say that. I wish it was one clip because I could call that a skit or he was joking. There's multiple clips online of him shitting on his receivers. He threw a crappy ball and he blamed them. Don Davis is throwing crappy passes left, right, fucking behind his back, thinking he's somebody crazy, Mahomes or whatever.
Calling out Dana.
And no one's catching him, and he's blaming them. Okay, point number one. Numerous potential new investors waste thousands of hours of our time. Time is so precious. Dude, Donnie, you're trying to get their business. They're not trying to get yours. What are you talking about? You're trying to get their, dude. What kind of crappy ass entrepreneur are you that you can't understand that? Or maybe you're just a bad liar and you play dumb and you want to be like, this is not my fault. I didn't do this. I'm Don Davis. I've never done anything wrong. Everything I touch turns into gold.
Maybe those investors don't want to put the time into hearing what you're saying because they know the product is failing. Or they know that the competitor that you're competing against is so large, is 20 years ahead in terms of applicable knowledge of the sport. These guys don't know anything when it comes to mixed martial arts. I've seen these guys on the sideline while covering events rooting for fighters. They were actively rooting for Robert Wilkerson against Yag Shamuradov in the playoffs. Actively rooting for him. And they actively root for I love Bellagio Ali Walsh. I wish him the greatest for his career.
He's a good guy.
But the owner cannot be rooting for him to win by knockout. That cannot happen publicly for them to see. Now, when Eddie Hearn does it, yeah, that's fine. Eddie Hearn's a promoter of individual fighters, not a brand, not something that is supposed to be taken seriously. So, I mean, Eddie's fighters are supposed to be taken seriously, but Matchroom Boxing doesn't sit there, and put on, like this tournaments, and they're not a brand necessarily themselves. But I mean, it's appalling to me the lack of accountability from Don. And what do you make of point number 3 here with the Bellator fighters? Because I know that's something that you probably want to talk about too.
Well, he can't make that up. Like he can't. I mean, I know he's saying he's like, some Bellator fighters complain on social media about not fighting, making us look like we don't meet our contracts. No, dude, it's out there. We can see they didn't meet their contracts. What are you talking about? Any of these guys didn't fight at all this year, or fought once this year. Come on, dude. Like, you don't have Patricio Pitbull for very long. You don't have Patrick Mix for very long. Corey Anderson's over here just dying for a fight. He'll take on anybody at any weight. And your heavyweight, former light heavyweight champion, Vadim Nemkov is telling him, oh, no, I don't want that fight. He tried the Dana White thing, right? Or maybe not Dana White, but he tried the UFC thing where they announced fights before they happened, right? Or before they even booked, kind of to show the fighters, hey, look, the people want to see it. The people want to see it. Nah, dude, that didn't work. Clearly, didn't work out. But first of all, guys like
platform to pull that off. When Dana does it, he knows 2 to 5 million people, or however many people they have following him on Instagram. Maybe it's 20. I haven't looked. Maybe it's 25 or 50. All of those people, when that fight gets announced and comes out, 50 million people know that you, for lack of a better term, bitched out maybe and pulled out of the fight. And with Don Davis, he does that. No one really cares if you pull out of the fight. Is anyone complaining about Vadim Nemkov and any of those? I mean, we might care as hardcore fans, but Dana puts those guys on Front Street and basically says, well, the ball's in your court now. Public opinion is going to go one way or you're going to fight. And the PFL doesn't have the power to do that.
Dude, I remember at UFC 235, he announced Nick Diaz against, I can't forget who it was, but he announced Nick Diaz fighting. Nick Diaz is my favorite fighter of all time, right? Nick Diaz, Ken Velasquez, Nate Diaz, and then, the rest of my list, and I'll keep to myself. But either way, like, Nick is number one to me. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Call him whatever you want to. That guy is hardcore. If you didn't watch his Pride fights, YouTube that, all right, immediately, right after the show. But I got tickets to that fight because he announced it. I'm like, oh, sweet, it's gonna happen. He announced it like it was real, like it was already set. And then Nick comes out going, I didn't agree to shit. Hell no. So I got to go watch John Jones be lazy as hell against Anthony Smith. And then when Anthony Smith took that legal knee, I was like, no, Anthony, take his title just for being lazy. John Jones should have killed him in the first round. He was just being lazy the whole. That shit pissed me off so bad, dude. But anyway, I'm like, dude, take his belt. Fuck him. I don't even care. Deserves it for being lazy. If you're that good of a fighter, finish your guy. Knock it out. Anyway, but all that to say, that you're not going to do that to the Nick Diaz's or the obviously the Vadim Nemkovs of the world. It's not going to work. So it is what it is on that one. But again, you got to own it. Donnie. You got to own it. You can't blame the fighters for calling you out for not giving them fights. That's literally what that paragraph, that sentence says. They make us look bad. Well, dude, you make you look bad, dog. Give them a fight. Like, come on, stop canceling events so often, or figure out your business model, or even better yet, let these guys go. Let them go where they'll actually get fights.
Something they never even think of. Like, they can't sell tickets because they don't put local fighters on the card where they're from. They had Daniel James, who basically single-handedly sold out the Bellator card when he fought Gokhan Sarikam. Like, he put 5,000 butts in the seat at the Wintrust Arena. Yeah. The next year he's fighting in San Antonio when you have Chicago scheduled 2 weeks later. How does that make sense? It don't make sense. And you have Bubba Jenkins and Kai Kamaka, two fighters who train in Las Vegas, fighting in Chicago when you have Las Vegas the week after Chicago. So it just is appalling when you sit there and look at it. It's like, what do you guys, what's the business plan here? Do you know why people come to the arena? You know, they got to know people that are on the card. So I don't know. There's just a lot of things when I've been covering this that, I highly doubt happen at the top level at the UFC behind closed doors. So it's very interesting, but
the thing is, the one thing you got to say about Dana is he knows when he has a good talent, he don't let them go. Mick has been there forever. Sean Shelby's been there forever. Joe Silva retired doing his own thing. A lot of stories about Joe Silva we won't even get into. If y'all know him, you'll know him. But these guys are the best, and they get paid. They get reward. They get compensated handsomely. So meanwhile, the PFL, look, I won't put all the matchmaking on Don. I'm not gonna do that. There's matchmakers to the PFL. Yeah. Pete Murray, I'll put that on Pete Murray 100%, right? Him and Mike Hogan. But it's not 100% Don's fault these matches don't get made, or these cards are made, like you said, for the local guys to fill up the cards and everything. The problem is he won't get rid of them either. Like, you got to be like, hey, y'all got to go. We got to find some better I don't care. I got to look around, find better matchmakers wherever they're at, and get these cards fixed. Get these cards fixed, right?
That's a great point, because you see on LinkedIn every other week, we're adding a business development of Africa specialist or wherever coming, a communication specialist. They're always adding employees, and they're never getting rid of employees. I don't see people getting fired.
And they don't do anything. Like, they don't do it. Every other day it's a new executive being hired by PFL. And for some reason, they put out a press release like, we're like, oh, guys, quick, let's write an article about some no-name guy I never fucking heard of in my life to do this and that. Like, no, dude, stop. Like, this is not complicated. Like, the problem is there. It's quite obvious. It's clear. Now, is there a lot of steps you got to take? Sure. Let's take one step at a time. Let's at least start walking before we're trying to sprint and catch up to the UFC. Let's just, come on. But the thing is it sounds like, it feels like, the PFL and Don Davis are in desperate mode now. They're desperate now. That's what it seems like to me, right? That's why, like, all these 5 bad things that happened in PFL in 2024, to me, feels like, all right, look, guys, I'm just saying, when this shit finally finishes sinking, it's at the bottom next to the Titanic, and the chick that wouldn't help Leo onto the fucking door in the movie, like, when this shit goes down there, don't look at me. I didn't do anything. No, yeah. I'm just a little entrepreneur, like with a bunch of money from some fucking East Coast. I don't know where he's from. I don't care. But either way, like, I'm just some little entrepreneur. It wasn't my fault. Like, the fighters lost this. The fans lost. The advertisers, they wouldn't advertise with us. What are you, Elon? Getting all mad because advertisers told X to kick rocks, and then you got pissy. That whole Elon suing advertisers. Sorry, I'm getting into a different tangent, but either way, to me, it feels like what do they call it when the built-in excuse? That's what it feels like.
You think he's kind of positioning himself for failure, to where he can deflect it in a way to, like, look at what we had to overcome adversity-wise. This is why we failed. Is that kind of what?
Read the post, bro. Yeah. Read the post. That's what it says. That's literally what it says. You know what I mean? At the bottom, he's like, all entrepreneurs, you survived. Declare victory. Survival is not victory when it comes to business. Okay, survival is the bottom rung of your failure. It's the top rung of your failure. You failed, but at least you survived. Like, come on, dude. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but they did just announce Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes. We will all be watching that.
When is that? Sorry, when is that?
I believe that's in February. You can look that up real quick.
And that's Saudi Arabia?
That is in the Middle East, yes.
Well, thanks, Don. Not only am I going to be up at who knows what fucking time to watch it, I can't even go if I wanted to. Thanks.
That's another point here that I was going to get into. Like the Middle East, we touched on it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
All of these fights are ending up happening here. Why do you think? I mean, it's for money. We know why, but at the end of the day, like, why are not any of these fights happening in the United States?
Because no one's going to pay to watch it, bro. Like, whenever they do, you know how they made a big deal, like, we're going to the Madison Square Garden, just like the UFC did. No, you're going to the theater at Madison Square Garden. Did you go to that one?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, because I know a couple of the other kids, I think Napoleon and somebody else went to a couple of those. Rush might have gone to a couple of those, but I'm like, you're at the theater, Madison Square Garden, dog. Like, I get what you're trying to do here, but you're not selling out arenas. No one's paying to go watch PFL. They're not, mind you. People pay to watch Bellator. They did pay to watch Bellator. Bellator, for as much crap as people want to give it, goes, oh, it's a little brother of the UFC. They had some good talent. They had some good fights.
Like, they put Fedor's retirement fight at the freaking Forum in LA. That's a massive stadium, 20,000.
100%. And they brought in fighters that the UFC couldn't bring in. Or, like Fedor didn't want to go to the UFC. You know what I mean? So they brought in Fedor. They put him against in a pretty wild matchup in my head against Ryan Bader. I thought Ryan Bader was going to get killed in that one. For him to knock him out was wild. I think he did it twice too. But anyway, like I wish it would have been the other way. Bellator somehow acquired PFL. All right.
Yeah.
Because I think Scott Coker would have been smart. He'd have been like, all right, cool. Look, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. You're not all going to be on my roster. I'm sorry. This is the price. This is this is just business. So I'm going to cut a gang of you guys out. I'm sorry. I apologize. Some of you are going to stay here. What we're not going to do is open up PFL Estonia and PFL, fucking Kim Jong-un's ass crack in North Korea. Like, we're not doing all that. We're going to do PFL and that's it, or Bellator and that's it. And we're going to be United States based. We're going to go abroad every once in a while for sure, but we're not going to spread ourselves so thin and make ourselves look dumb. That's what we're not going to do. And unfortunately, that's where we are.
Well, we do have a UFC card to look forward to this weekend. You're going to be covering it live from Las Vegas. It's not necessarily the casual fight fans' most exciting watch, but for us hardcores, there is a lot of interesting stylistic matchups throughout the card, starting with the main event, Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Ribas. This is a rematch of these two previously competing. So this will be the second time that these two girls have met. 14-5 coming in for Mackenzie Dern, 13-5 for Amanda Ribas. Mackenzie Dern is a credentialed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, one of the best grapplers in the world. Amanda Ribas has a kickboxing style, but can defend herself on the ground as well, is very well-rounded. Who do you like in this matchup, Eddie? And are you very excited for the return this weekend to the UFC?
Ooh, I'm hyped, dude. I'm hyped because first of all, I know that people complain about, like, we get these 3-4 weeks off during the holidays. I love it. You have no idea. Like, I love it. I spend hours, every single day over, 10, 12 hours covering, talking about, working fights and all that. And then Saturdays are from the morning till like 2, 3 in the morning on Sunday, especially we have someone there. Right. So, I'm excited for them to come back. I'm refreshed. I'm ready to go. I haven't covered a UFC. I didn't cover any UFC in 2023. I was supposed to. It happened, so I'm hyped for it. But this fight, I understand why a lot of people don't like women's MMA. I understand it. I don't care, but I get it. But this fight's interesting. When these two fought the first time, Amanda Ribas was still early on in her run, right? They were like, hey, let's throw in Mackenzie Dern, see what's up, see if she can, if she sinks or swims. Mackenzie Dern was coming right off of giving birth. And it was a quick return after it was like 3-4 months after she gave birth, she fought again. If you can imagine, and like I was, I have kids and everything, and seeing my wife go through the pregnancies and all the postpartum pregnancy stuff is wild. For her to come back so quickly, to me, was ill-advised, right? So came back, got beat. It's going to be interesting to see what the improvements are. Amanda has been pretty consistent, but she's only had in my opinion, she's only had little improvements here or there. If anything, you can see she might have regressed a little bit. She might not have changed the way that her fight IQ very much. Mackenzie Dern has developed hands. Not only that, she's developed a mean streak. Apparently, if you no offense, Mackenzie, but if you divorce a woman and piss her off, she's pretty pissed. So, we've seen her in a couple slobber knockers, in the last 2-3 fights out. So she's an exciting fighter. So I think we're going to get a different kind of fight here. I think, Amanda being a black belt as well. Look, if Mackenzie Dern gets her down or they end up on the ground, Mackenzie's going to try and sub her. That's just what it's going to be. And if you look at the experience factors and the levels, Mackenzie probably wins that. But there's also a world where these two girls say, screw it. Stay right here. Let's fucking go. Especially Mackenzie. Mackenzie will do that. And Amanda, for as sweet and wonderful as she is, has a mean streak of her own. She would, let's go and start throwing. So I'm hyped for it. I'm hyped for every fight, honestly, but I'm hyped for it. I mean, I'm here for it for sure.
Yeah. I think that really the story of this matchup is the story of most of Mackenzie Dern's career. Can she get this fight to the ground? She's, like I said, she's one of the best grapplers in all of women's MMA and maybe all of MMA. But her problem has been getting the takedown, getting people when they get to the fence on the ground so she can use her ground game. Amanda Ribas does have good takedown defense and was able to stop the takedowns in the first competition. I think that's really the story of this fight, and we'll see if she can land it this weekend and find a way in a path to victory by submission. But I really like this matchup. I think it's going to be entertaining, and the UFC put this as the main event for a reason. There's other fights on this card that could have served as a main event. But they think this is probably going to be a highly competitive matchup. So I'm going to take Mackenzie Dern in this one by decision. I'm going to go submission. It's 5 rounds in this one. I think she finds it over 25 minutes. The last one was a 15-minute matchup. So I'm going to go Mackenzie Dern in this one by sub. I'll go 4th round late.
There you go. I like Mackenzie in this one as well. I think it'll go decision though, and I think it's going to be a tough fight for both. But I think Mackenzie has just enough improvement in the last year or so that I want to see what she does with it. So I think it'll be interesting for sure. And then I don't think it'll be. I know I'm hyped for it. Like I said, and it's a great fight. But remember, they moved this from UFC Tampa to the Apex, and it wasn't. I don't think it was a main event. It was supposed to. It was. People say it was a main event. It's not a main event in Tampa, but it got moved to the Apex and they needed a main event. And what can I say, dude? I love fights, so it doesn't even matter.
Yep. We'll always be watching, but moving down to the co-main event, we have a battle of veterans. Oops. Santiago Ponzinibbio takes on Carlston Harris. Santiago Ponzinibbio comes into this one 30-8. The Argentine dagger looking to get the knockout here over Carlston Harris, who's 19-6. Both of these guys are coming off of a loss. Ponzinibbio is a very durable competitor, rough customer, very good with the hands. Kickboxing's on point. But he seems to have slowed down of late. And when you look at him, he had that staph infection that kept him out for 3 years. At one point, he was one of the brightest contenders in the UFC, was ranked in the top 10. It just knocked out Neil Magny viciously and face planted him, So this guy had a lot of hype behind him at one point in time. Comes back and has really competitive matchups. A couple decisions don't go his way that he thought could have gone his way, but he's taking on Carlston Harris this weekend, a very athletic fighter who has a surprisingly good ground game. Who do you favor in this one, Eddie? Do you think that Santiago Ponzinibbio will be able to get back in the win column?
I think Santiago needs to get back in the win column. He's like 1-4 in his last 5. So he knocked out Neil Magny when it was really, 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 I mean, it still is difficult, but it was really hard to knock out Neil Magny.
First to do it. Yeah. He was like,
that is a hard man to knock out, tough man to knock out, right? So he knocks him out. Then we're supposed to get and again, I researched the hell out of this for my questions and all that, but he gets matched up with Robbie Lawler. That fight doesn't happen. I want to say Robbie got hurt. No, Santiago got hurt, but he gets matched up with Robbie Lawler, right? And that fight falls out. The Muslim Salika fight falls out too. Then he gets matched up with Leach and gets knocked out in the first round. That was the beginning of the end because. He fought Miguel Baeza. He decisioned him, and then two losses in a row. Yeah, 2 losses in a row. Jeff Neal, Michelle Pereira, and then he beats Alex Morono with the overhand right, and then he kind of declares like I'm back, I'm still here, blah blah, and then gets finished by Kevin Holland and gets split by Muslim Salikov. So he's not doing great. Like he's one of those things where he's gonna start thinking at 37, 38 years old, he's gonna start thinking about do I still want to do this? Like, do I still have it? I think this fight's it means more to him than to us as fight fans. We're just here watching the fight, hoping hoping to see some crazy shit, right? But we don't really expect Santiago to go on a title run. We definitely don't really expect Harris to go on a title run whatsoever. Yeah. And so this is a personal fight for Santiago. Can he prove he still has it more to himself than anybody else? That's going to be, to me, the story of the night. And if he wins, we might see Santiago be like, I can still do this. If he loses, we might see him hang the gloves up and just commentary. But who knows? He's honestly, having spoken to him a couple times, he's a tough guy. He's a fiery guy. He don't quit.
Yeah, I think he's really going to have to get put out to leave the UFC. And I don't think Carlston Harris is necessarily the guy to do that. But Carlston Harris's only losses are the top flight competition, Chaos Williams and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Outside of that, he has some good names on his record as well. He defeated Jeremiah Wells, holds a victory over Impa Kasanganay when Kasanganay was on his UFC run. This is a guy who can get it done on the ground with submissions, and he has a very surprising ground game. I don't know if he's going to be able to get Ponzinibbio to the ground, considering Ponzinibbio has tremendous takedown defense and has fought grapplers in the past that have not been able to get him there. But, we'll see. I think this is a striker versus grappler matchup. If Harris can get this to the ground, I think he's going to have a lot of success. If Ponzinibbio can keep it on the feet, I think he's going to have a chance to get the job done. So this is why us real hardcore fight fans tune in, is these stylistic matchups. And I hope that Ponzinibbio can get back into win column here and kind of prove to himself that he still belongs in that upper echelon, not upper echelon, but that competitive level outside the rankings in the welterweight division.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Carlson Harris is he's also he just got his black belt like a month or two ago, jiu-jitsu black belt. So who knows? Maybe he goes in there feeling himself like a little saucy. I'm gonna try and maybe I'll pull guards, do some crazy shit, and then get a submission. But I'm taking Santiago. I think Santiago's gonna prove that he still has something left in the tank. And if he does, look, I'll tell you right now, if he gets some like insane Sports Center top 10, highlight reel knockout that rest in peace guy, shit, what is his name? I just had his name in my head. He says booyah. He used to say booyah. I'm so embarrassed. What is his name? Stuart Scott. Jesus Christ. But it was something that would make Stuart Scott say booyah, something like that, right? Or cool on the other side of the pillow. Like if you get a highlight that becomes like iconic in a way, at least temporarily, you could maybe Dana or maybe Mick and Sean are like, maybe we put him in a contender if I see what he does, just to see what happens. Yeah, that's it. I mean, either way, you don't lose. Santiago's a fun guy to watch.
Yeah, they always know that he'll fill in on short notice, and he can be competitive with anybody at any level. So this is going to be a good matchup. I'm going to take Ponzinibbio by decision, but I think it's going to be competitive, and don't be surprised if Harris finds success on the ground.
100%.
Moving on down the card, we have former kickboxing world champion Cesar Almeida taking on Judo Thunder Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Cesar Almeida comes into this one at 6-1, while Abdul Razak Al Hassan comes into this one at 12-6. Now, Judo Thunder did get put out by Joe Pyfer in vicious fashion with that right hand right behind the ear. I don't know how he's going to respond from that. Fighting another talented kickboxer here in Cesar Almeida. Almeida has had a great career over in Glory, coming over now to the UFC. So for Abdul, I really think this is a matchup that he was set up to lose in. I hate to say that. He's a veteran who's been around for a very long time. He had a very impressive knockout win of his own against an Italian fighter a couple years ago. The name's escaping me. But he's a very athletic guy himself. He can get the fight to the ground. I think this is a good test for Almeida as he blossoms in his career coming over from kickboxing. I think this is kind of like the Bruno Silva matchup for Alex Pereira. When Alex Pereira was coming, they're like, okay, we're going to give you to a veteran that we know is going to be hard for you to get out of here, and we're going to see what you're really made of. I'm impressed from what I see with Cesar Almeida so far, and hopefully he can continue success for him. But for Abdul Razak Al Hassan, I think another loss here might be the end of the road for his UFC career. So he has a lot to fight for this weekend, while Cesar Almeida is looking to be on the up and up and do things towards the top of this division. Who do you have in this one? And do you think that Abdul can maybe pull off the crazy upset here?
I hope he does, just so I can ask him about Joaquin Buckley. You know that story?
No, I don't.
He hates Joaquin Buckley.
Why is that?
He hates him. So, 2 years ago at the Apex, I went, covered him. He won his fight. He comes back out, and we asked him about Buckley. I forgot what Buckley did to piss him off. He did something to piss him off badly, too, because he goes, Buckley's a bitch. Can I say that? Yeah, he's a bitch. Fuck. He just goes off. So I'm like, okay. So we're just feeding him, like this Buckley line, just trying to get him to see what he says. And at the end, I'm the one with the last question. And I go, hey, man, if a fan comes up to you in the street and goes, Buckley, what do you do? He goes, I probably slap him. I want him to win just so I can ask him about that. That's it. That's all I want. But as far as the fight goes, Cesar Almeida is a dog, dude. It is crazy. Abdul's a bad motherfucker, you know what I mean? And you got to feel for him, the stuff he's had to deal with. I don't know if you heard the story of him.
Yeah, the unfortunate false accusation of sexual assault.
He's traumatized off of that. he has to film or record, or at least voice record, any interaction he has with females, because that messed him up so badly. Like, you can imagine that messes with your head so bad that who knows what you're focusing on at that point, right? So I'm hoping he, got himself in a safe spot to be able to train and everything and come back. But yeah, you're right. He needs this win. He needs this win badly. I don't know if he's gonna get it. I gotta say I'm taking Almeida. I really am. But judo can get it. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. Cesar Almeida gonna look to finish off Abdul Razak Al Hassan this weekend. The credentialed kickboxer moves up in competition, and we're excited to see what he brings to the table on Saturday night. Moving down the card, we have this is my most. If I look at this entire card, this is the one that really gets me going. Chris Curtis entering this one against Roman Kopylov. Kopylov 13-3. Chris Curtis 31-11. A veteran over there at Extreme Couture. Kopylov's one of the best kickboxers in this division. We've seen his head kick knockout over Claudson Ribeiro, but he has struggled at times against grapplers. Chris Curtis is not somebody who's going to take the fight to the ground. He's going to be there in your face, pressure from the southpaw stance, looking to box from the opening bell. This is going to be really interesting to me. Can Curtis put the pressure on Kopylov to make him fight off the back foot, or can Kopylov keep his distance at range and pick Chris Curtis apart with leg kicks, jabs, and body and head kicks at distance? We've seen Curtis kind of struggle with longer fighters when he fought Jack Hermanson in the past. Kopylov is, very good, as I said, in kickboxing, but he does not have a reach advantage in this one, surprisingly, even though he is the taller fighter in height. Who do you have in this one, Eddie? And do you think that Chris Curtis can kind of turn back the clock here in this one?
It's tough to pick out. First of all, Chris Curtis went to Thailand to train, right? He went to Thailand to train. He joined up. He ran into Brendan Lufnani, and all that, and apparently he had a pretty good time with her. So it was pretty cool to see that he went and changed things up. He said, "quote," damn, I want to say quote, but he said something like, "There's gonna be a new monster come January." So I want to see what his new monster looks like. What's he gonna do? Is he gonna use kicks a lot more? Muay Thai, it's kick and elbow, kick, knee, and elbow heavy. Punches too for sure, but kick, knee, and elbow heavy. He's gonna come in with some kicks instead. Maybe start, changing up the way his stance goes and everything. We'll see. I think he's gonna try and give Roman Kopylov something he hasn't seen before, right? I mean, look, we got some James Bond-ish going on in this thing too. Okay, like not long ago, maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, Chris Curtis accused Roman Kopylov of sending spies to his camp. Now, if no one's heard the story, Chris Curtis cleared it up. All right, Chris Curtis, even when he's wrong, he'll say he's wrong, and he did. Came out with a whole ass video. He said, "Yeah, my bad." So Johnny Walker's fighting Guskov. No,
Bogdan Guskov.
Thank you, Guskov. He's fighting Guskov. Okay, Guskov, Russian as well, I believe. And so those people that were spies were Guskov's coaches, right? And so when Kopylov came into town, they went over to work with him. That's all that was. It wasn't spies, right? They just
thought they were the wrong Russians.
They're the wrong Russians. So they cleared it all up. Apparently, he met up with Roman and said, "Hey, my bad, dog," and all that. Because Roman was like, "Dude, everyone hates me somehow." Like, I don't know what happened. You can imagine Roman don't speak any English, going, "What the fuck? Fuck me? What do you mean? Fuck me? What did I do?" Yeah. So interesting. No, as far as the fight goes, I fully expect Roman to be able to use his jab, keep Curtis away. So what we see a lot from Curtis a lot, he does try to put combos together, and once in a while he does put them together. But he, when he gets in his own head, I think when he gets in his own head, he turns into a one-shot dude. The one punch, maybe a 1-2.
Versus Hermanson when he got flustered a little bit.
He got flustered, and Jack took it because Jack pisses everybody off, right? And so, so Chris Curtis, to me, is can you eat that jab, right? And then find a different angle to throw a combo and go to the body, do something different. You can't just disengage when that jab comes at you. Now, if you get hit too many times with that jab, it's definitely going to mess you up. But you got to come up with a game plan to be able to get inside, get in close, attack to the body. And I also wouldn't be surprised if he gets crazy and tries to go for a takedown. That'd be hilarious. But I think it's going to be. I'm with you. To me, this is like the people's main event, I guess. But I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to ask Chris Curtis questions about all kinds of stuff. And then Roman. The funny thing about Roman is he's been doing commercials now, like ads, and it makes me laugh because none of these Russian dudes ever seem like they're like.
What's he been in?
No, nothing on our end.
Oh,
on social media. Like he did one for like a cell phone company. He did one for a drink. And it's funny to have him like zipping up his hoodie and going off the. I got my little drink here. I'm gonna go off the train now. This stuff makes me, I'm a UFC fighter. Yeah, kind of shit. But he looks oddly comfortable in those videos. So I want to ask him about it, like, dude, when did you start making videos, dog? Like commercials? Like, how'd that come about? You look awkward as hell talking to me right now.
Yeah, I hope you ask Chris Curtis about his relationship with Sean Strickland and where that's at currently. But for Roman, I really think he's going to win this one. I think he's going to be able to keep Chris Curtis at distance, really like Jack Hermanson did. I think he's going to be able to frustrate Chris. And he might be able to do more damage than Jack did as well. So don't be surprised if he finds a TKO here in the third round or something. He's a very talented kickboxer, very coordinated, and moves well from the outside. And Chris Curtis is a guy who likes to put pressure. Whether he can get inside that distance or not, to me, is the story of the fight. But I'm going to take Kopylov by decision in this one. I think he's going to be too much at range.
I'm gonna go Curtis. I'll go Curtis decision as well. But I think he needs a win right now. So hopefully he gets it.
So moving down the card, we do have a couple more matchups that we should talk about. For me, the one that really gets off the page here is the youngsters. We've got 27-year-old Christian Rodriguez, 11-2, defeated Raul Rosas, was the first one to take his O. He's going to be facing 23-year-old newcomer Austin Bashi, who impressed off of the Dana White Contender Series. Bashi comes into this one at 13-0 with an undefeated record, but Christian Rodriguez has turned back undefeated fighters in the past, including Raul Rosas. What do you make of this one? I think this is going to be a very good fight, and one that I'm tuning in for with heightened enthusiasm, because I want to see if Bashi can live up to expectations. He's fighting a very tough customer in his debut.
Well, he's making his UFC debut after the Contender Series. He got that choke, right? And then after that, I think he was supposed to fight after that in Contender again. No, it was before that. Yeah, so his first matchup got canceled, and then I can't remember if that was the guy that said I don't want to fight, but whatever. Either way, coming off into a pretty tough debut, I think he can handle it. I mean, if you watch his Contender Series fights, the kid's tough and he can grapple really, really well. So can he get past the Christian striking, because Christian striking is pretty solid. Can he get past that, get the fight to the ground, and get a choke? We'll see. I think this is tailor-made for Austin and make a big splash and announce himself to the 145 division. That's very slowly getting stacked. But the kid's coming in with a lot of hype, lot of maybe was he 13 fights, so not a ton of experience. But the kid's got something. He's got something. We're gonna find out what it is. I think this on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think he's a very good physical athlete. He's somebody that looks like he could be a 3-sport athlete in high school. Just built for combat if you look at him. And here's the thing that really has cause for concern for me in this one. Christian Rodriguez defended the takedown against Raul Rosas Jr. Tremendously. No one really has been able to stop the takedown of Rosas other than Rodriguez. Now, Bashi we haven't seen much on the feet from him, right? He's a takedown guy. He's very physically dominant, ground and pound, and then get you into the submission. But is he going to be able to do that against a guy in Christian Rodriguez who's faced elite competition from ground fighters in the past before? So that's going to be interesting to see for me. Maybe if Rodriguez stops a takedown, we see Austin's hands and we can get a gauge for what his talent level is there. That's really what I'm interested in seeing this weekend. I'm actually, I want to buy into the hype of Austin Bashi. The last guy I bought hype into was Robelis to Spain at heavyweight, and that didn't turn out. So I wouldn't be surprised if Christian Rodriguez goes and gets a decision win in this one, but I'm interested to see the talent of Austin Bashi.
Yeah, I think Austin Bashi is going to make a splash in this one. I think it's going to be. I'm looking forward to talking to him. Not to mention if Christian wins, that's just another notch in his belt, takes another person's own. Continues on. But I think, like I said, I think this is tailor-made for Austin to come in and maybe make it look easy. It's on Austin to do it, obviously. So we'll see.
Yeah. And to that point, since moving up to 145, Rodriguez has looked a little slower, not like he was necessarily at 135 when he did fight Raul Rosas.
Just that 135 cut's a mother, dude.
Yeah. So there may be a size advantage distinctively for Bashi in this one. Sure. We'll have to pay attention to that as well. Is there any other fights on the card, Eddie, that you think we should break down and look at moving forward?
Please, Soriano, Punahele, please pull it off, bro. I don't want to see you losing out of the UFC. He's such a cool guy. Like, as a person, he's such a cool guy. And he's got good striking. He just kind of freezes every time he gets in. Literally, his face. Look at his face when he gets in there on Saturday. Like that just freezes, right? If he gets, if Medic, which who's a bad mother effer himself, like if he comes in and makes him think too much, Soriano's in trouble. But outside of that one, and just him, not even the fight itself. Oh man, who do I like on here? Fatima Klein against Dudakova is a good fight. For the strawweight division, is a pretty good fight. Klein, where's she fight at last? I can't remember, but I like that fight. Joe Solecki's always, for some reason,
Ali is debuting, isn't he? Isn't he an undefeated fighter?
I believe so. Let me find out for you.
I believe he's a debuting undefeated fighter.
I'll
be interested in that one as well. But
he is undefeated. Comes with the Tajik Eagle making his UFC debut. Yeah. No. This is his second fight. He's off of the Contender Series.
Oh, so first fight in the UFC, but he had a fight in the Contender.
Second one. He beat Rafael Alves in February 23, I think. But again, a guy
customer.
Yeah, and a guy that fought for Eagle FC, obviously, Khabib and all that, and really came up in a weird way. Like he had to have a reputation to get to the UFC because he fought an AMC fight, something like that, and some other promotion I never heard of, and then the one that made me laugh was I don't know what it means. Battle on Volga. I don't know what Volga is, but he fought on that. This is just off my research that I was doing for the card, but he's had a weird way up. But Joe Solecki is a fun guy, and we'll see what Ali of his has on that one. But as far as obviously we know about Dudakova 8-1 and everything. Fatima Klein is making her second walk to the UFC. She just lost to Jasmine Jasudavicius in Canada, I think, right? In July or June or July last year. And so she just made her debut on short notice, I believe, and lost the decision. But she was the favorite in that one. Okay, and she's a favorite, I believe, in this one, a big favorite, like a pretty big favorite. So it's on Dudakova to make it, to do something about it. But I'm excited about Fatima making her way into the UFC and showing us what she's got. I think we're going to see something special out of her, or at the very least, a pretty bloody fight. And we'll see what happens. But overall, the card's pretty solid. Obviously, it's top heavy, as every UFC Apex card is. Trey Ogden's a funny guy. I don't know why.
That Bruno Lopez fight is actually I don't know much about those guys, but I believe Bruno Lopez is like 18-2, and Magomed, very good records on both of those guys.
Yeah, and Bruno was Contender Series, right?
I believe so. I think he's making his debut. I don't know if Magomed's fought here in the past or not.
And then I forgot that this young fella's on. This fight's on here. Marco Tulio coming off of the Contender Series and taking on Io Porteria, who I don't know if you saw Io early in his career. He did not have this emo ass haircut that he's got going on, trying to pretend like he's some kind of freaking
Eddie, he's the worst fighter I've seen watching the sport in 10 years.
100%, but his hair makes me laugh, so I want to see that fight.
Igor's only defeated, I believe, Brezik and Mauricio Shogun Hua, who's 42. Other than that, he's been knocked out or finished in every single fight. He fought, I believe he fought Michel Pereira and was knocked down.
Dude, no. He got
a backflip on him and then submitted him all in 54 seconds.
Bro, he guillotined his ass standing.
Yeah.
It was
after he already knocked him down and did a backflip on him.
After he jacked him up, he guillotined him, standing guillotine finish. So I'm not arguing that at all. He's not UFC caliber whatsoever. I do admire the fact that he's survived in the UFC for forever. It feels like it's like 2-3 years now that he's been just losing left and right, and he keeps getting chances. So we'll see how it goes. But I gotta say, I expect Marco to get a highlight reel knockout. I just do.
But on the brighter side of things, we do have a 2-title fight pay-per-view coming up the next week. That's going to be, for casual fans, something that they're going to be very interested and invested in, as Islam Makhachev defends his title against Arman Sarukian in their second matchup. So, fight fans, thanks for joining us this week. We will be back next Tuesday. Eddie's going to cover this live. You can catch all of his content this weekend on Cageside Press. He's going to be asking questions from Press Row in post-fight. Maybe talks to Dana if Dana's there as well. But next week we'll be here. We'll break down any news that comes over the weekend, and we will preview the UFC pay-per-view next weekend. Thanks for joining us.